everyone. This is Stephen Balch, your instructor for Introduction to Macroeconomics. What I'd like to do today is give you just a little bit of feedback on the chapters 5 and 6 activities that I finished grading last week, and also tell you a little bit about the chapter 7 and 8 activities, which are due Saturday, March 1st. Okay. So the first thing is, like I said, I did finish grading the chapters 5 and 6 activities during our snow week last week. And so hopefully you've already gone in and looked at your grades for those activities and read the corresponding grading comments. If you haven't done that, go ahead and do that as soon as you can. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. If I did have to count any points off or anything, I tried to be very specific on why I was counting points off, and in most cases even give you the correct answer for the what I was looking for in the assignment answer. Okay, but like I said, if you have any questions about that, just let me know. Most of you did well on the assignment, so I really appreciate those of you that are putting the time and effort in. There were a couple of you that seemed like you were kind of running out of time and you just kind of did what you could at the last minute, but so I had to count some points off there. But most of you did really well. Most of you took your time and really answered the questions thoroughly, and so I really appreciate that. So keep up the good work on the assignments. Now, some specific things on assignment question 3. There were a few of you who didn't give examples of each type of economic indicator. In other words, you explained what the 3 economic indicators were, but you didn't give examples. And that was part of the question, was it asked you to give some examples for each one of those. So I did have to count a few points off for that. Also on assignment question 4, there were a few of you who listed but didn't fully explain or define the components of aggregate expenditure. So just and that's kind of a thoroughness thing. You want to make sure that that you're answering each part of each question thoroughly or completely. Make sure that you're not skipping over a part of the question. Remember, each question will have multiple parts to it. And so I think some of you just kind of overlook part of it and forget to answer that part. So just make sure that you're carefully answering each part of each question. Okay. But other than that, like I said, most of you did really well on the assignment. So like I said, keep up the good work on that. The discussion that we had for chapters 5 and 6, if you remember, it dealt with the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index, which is, if you remember, it's a measurement system that we use to gauge how much prices have increased over a certain period of time, so that we can see kind of measure inflation. And we talked about how that CPI number is calculated, and we also talked about some of the importance of it, but also some of the difficulty and problems that are encountered when we're trying to calculate the Consumer Price Index. There are some issues with it, just like with just about anything. There are some problems that can arise, and we also talked about some of the ways that that we kind of try to overcome some of those barriers or some of those problems. Okay. All right. So, like I said, I really appreciate everyone's participation on the discussion. I thought it went really well. I really enjoyed reading everyone's comments. So keep up the good work on the discussions as well. On the objective test or chapter test for chapters 5 and 6, most of you did well on that. I know I always remind you of this, but I like to remind you. Make sure that you remember that you can take those tests as many times as you want to up until the due date, and that your highest grade is automatically recorded. So it really doesn't hurt you to take it more than once, and kind of, if nothing else, it'll help you more or better prepare for the midterm and final exams. So just kind of keep that in mind that you can take those multiple times if you want to. All right. So that brings us to what we've got coming up for our next set of chapter activities. So if we go to the activities page in Miles Arca, right now we're on the beginning portion of week 6 of the semester, and we've got the chapter 7 and 8 activities due by Saturday, March 1st. So you've got just a little under a week to be working on chapter 7 and 8 activities. Let me very briefly here kind of talk to you about what's going to be covered in chapter 7 and 8. Starting with chapter 7, it's going to cover two of the very, very important topics in macroeconomics, which are unemployment and inflation. Okay? If you remember, two of the goals of the U.S. economy are to have stable prices. So that's where inflation comes into play. A reason that we need to kind of measure inflation. And then another goal of the U.S. economy is to have full employment. In other words, no cyclical unemployment. And so Chapter 7 deals with that as well. That's unemployment's a measurement that we also need to calculate so that we can manage those three goals of the U.S. economy. All right? Unemployment and inflation are critically important macroeconomic topics, and they are topics that we will discuss in one way or another all the way throughout the rest of the semester. So this is the chapter where those terms are kind of introduced and really discussed and talked about. And so it's really important to understand those concepts now, because later on we will be kind of taking what we've already learned about unemployment and inflation and kind of expanding on what we've already learned. Okay, so just make sure you take your time to learn those concepts, and of course, right now inflation is a hot topic in the news, and so you'll learn more about what inflation is and how it's calculated and so forth. Okay. And let's see, Chapter 8 deals with productivity and growth. All right, so in Chapter 8, we're going to look at something that we've already talked about before, which is the production possibilities frontier, or sometimes it's called the production possibilities curve, which basically allows us to kind of see what the output is, what resources we have available in an economy, and how much total output we can get from those resources if we use those resources efficiently. Okay, so Chapter 8 is about productivity and growth. So you're going to, in Chapter 8, we'll learn about like I said, the production possibilities frontier. We'll also learn about the various methods that we use to measure economic productivity and growth. Okay? And let's see. Let me click on the Chapter 7 and 8 assignment page here. Yeah, so in Chapter 7 and 8, you're going to learn about things like the cost of living adjustment, economic growth. Yeah, so you have several videos here that explain a lot of the concepts from the chapters. So make sure you're using those videos, watching those videos, so that you can learn more about the concepts covered in Chapter 7 and 8. And if you remember from Chapters 5 and 6, we talked about some of the kind of basic macroeconomic concepts. These Chapters 7 and 8 are going to kind of take what you've learned from Chapters 5 and 6 and like I said, go into more detail on all those topics like unemployment, inflation, and productivity. Okay? All right, so be working on those activities for Chapter 7 and 8, and let me know if you have any questions at all. And that's really all I have for you for today. So enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and I will talk to you again sometime next week. Thank you.